Stop everything. You know those Hollywood love stories that seem too good to be true? Well, buckle up, because this one was too good to be true, and the whole thing just spectacularly imploded. After nearly 2 decades, yes, 20 years, together through rehab, relentless red carpet displays, and endless whispers, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban's marriage didn't just quietly fade away. It detonated! And now, the internet is absolutely convinced that Keith has already traded up for a rising country firecracker named Maggie Baugh, the same 25-year-old he simply could not stop ogling during their now infamous viral duet. Nicole remained perfectly silent for weeks, but her recent subtle reaction, what she let slip and what she pointedly did not, has fans convinced she is utterly heartbroken, caught completely off guard, and maybe even stabbed right in the back. So how did this happen? How did Hollywood's supposed soulmates go from those sickeningly sweet red carpet kisses to Keith being linked to someone half her age? Settle in, because we're about to expose the deep rot behind this celebrity collapse. It all started with one ridiculous flirty song. Keith Urban was performing The Fighter, one of his biggest hits, and casually brought out country musician Maggie Baugh to join him on stage. Totally standard for Keith, right? Wrong. The sparks were nuclear. Midway through the track, Keith theatrically points directly at Maggie as he croons, "I'm the fighter. I'll defend your heart tonight." The crowd spontaneously combusted. The clip went mega viral, and by the next morning, Keith Urban Maggie Baugh had broken every trending chart. People weren't just complimenting the vocals. They were asking, wait, is Keith full-on flirting? This dropped not long after whispers started claiming he and Nicole were quietly separating. When you connect those dots, the timeline becomes suspiciously neat. Keith Urban, married for 20 years to one of the world's most respected actresses, suddenly serenading a 25-year-old guitarist on stage, grinning, laughing, and locked in a gaze the entire time? Girl, please. Nobody bought the just a duet excuse. To understand the chaos, you have to remember what Keith and Nicole represented. They were the anomaly. 19 years in Hollywood marriage is practically a century. They survived scandals, addiction, and constant tabloid pressure. They looked unbreakable. But here's the tea everyone missed. That perfect, carefully curated image was secretly starting to crack. Keith himself spilled the beans about how, just 4 months after saying "I do" to Nicole, his deep-seated addictions nearly obliterated their marriage. He even admitted, "I had done really nothing about it and blew our marriage to smithereens." Nicole, that cinematic angel, instead of walking away, played the savior. She single-handedly staged an intervention, banished him to rehab, and dutifully stood by him for 3 brutal months while he got clean. And just like that, the tone was set for the rest of their epic tragedy. Nicole as the tireless protector, Keith as the one perpetually being rescued. That dynamic never changed. As the years dragged on, she was shooting prestige blockbusters all over the world: London, LA, Sydney, while Keith was constantly on the road touring. 2 massive stars living 2 entirely separate parallel lives. From the outside, they looked like a fairy tale designed by a genius PR firm. But privately, they were 2 strangers holding onto a fading fantasy. The first truly public crack showed up this summer, June 25th, 2025, their 19th anniversary. Nicole posts a loving black and white throwback photo with the caption, "Happy anniversary, baby heart." Keith's response? A single stone-cold heart emoji. That's IT. No repost, no photo of his own, nothing. At the time, fans simply brushed it off. But now, that silence is absolutely deafening. Because just weeks later, reports dropped that Keith had moved out of their family home and rented his own bachelor pad in Nashville. And here's the kicker. That crucial move happened right around the same time he started performing with Maggie Baugh. So, when that ridiculously flirty video hit social media, people didn't just see a little chemistry, they saw cold, hard confirmation. Let's talk about Maggie for a second. Maggie Baugh is not some random fan Keith plucked off the internet. She's a serious, on-the-rise firecracker dominating the Nashville scene. She's 25, insanely talented on the fiddle, has toured with big names, and has diligently built her own massive online following. She has been on the grinding hustle for years, dropping covers and singles, desperate to smash into the mainstream. So, when Keith Urban, one of country music's biggest, most legendary names, asked her to perform with him, It was her golden, career-making dream opportunity. And to be totally fair, there is zero confirmed evidence that they're romantically involved. But perception, darling, is everything. The way Keith stared at her on stage, the absolutely atrocious timing, the tell-all body language. It screamed flirty duet energy. And when you pair that shocking stage flirting with a marriage that was clearly already imploding, fans didn't hesitate for a nanosecond to fill in all the dark, desperate blanks. Maggie, bless her heart, tried to stay quiet, aside from one pitifully subtle post that read, "Focus on the music. The rest is just noise." To her, it might have been a completely harmless collaboration, but to the rest of the world watching the train wreck, it screamed betrayal. After the video blew up into a scandal, Keith had absolutely no choice but to say something. In a recent, entirely unconvincing interview, he weakly stated, "I was honestly surprised by how quickly it blew up. Maggie's an incredibly talented musician, and that's all there is to it. We shared a song and people read into it what they wanted." That pathetic plea was his doomed attempt to shut the story down. But here's the cold, hard tea. Keith's been in the celebrity game long enough to know exactly what goes viral and why. He absolutely knew the whole planet was watching him, and Nicole's marriage completely unraveled. He knew precisely how fans would interpret that ridiculously charged performance. So when he played the innocent fool, fans were not just not buying it. They were calling him straight-up disrespectful and insensitive, especially considering Nicole's rock-solid loyalty to him for 2 brutal decades. Now, here's where things get juicy and utterly devastating. Because Nicole has finally fired back, not with an angry social media rant or a dramatic interview, but with powerful, devastatingly subtle cues that hit harder than any headline. In a recent feature profile, she opened up about loss, delivering the heartbreaking quote, "Sometimes you give everything to someone and they still walk away." That single, raw line hit everyone right in the chest cavity. Fans instantly connected it to Keith. It felt raw, like it was coming from a queen who was finally realizing the person she courageously rescued wasn't ever going to save her back. Her entire social media presence underwent a complete vibe shift too. More cryptic, reflective captions, quiet family time, way less unnecessary glamour. She's leaning into quiet, regal strength. Nicole isn't out for revenge, girls. She's out for peace. But you can absolutely tell this one cut deep into her soul. Behind the perfect public smiles, their 2-decade marriage had been silently deteriorating for years. Keith's endless, brutal touring schedule and Nicole's demanding global film commitments kept them apart for months on end. They were routinely missing birthdays, massive family events, and all those small moments that used to truly matter. Friends close to the imploding couple revealed it reached the horrifying point where they were basically living like glorified, wealthy roommates. Then came Nicole's audacious new film choices, A Family Affair and Baby Girl, both featuring incredibly intense, intimate scenes. Sources claim Keith absolutely did not handle it well. He supposedly felt horribly uncomfortable, maybe even fundamentally disrespected. During one recent radio interview, when a host dared to bring up Nicole's steamy film scenes, Keith's fragile ego snapped and he abruptly hung up the phone. That devastating moment became utterly symbolic. It was never actually about the film scenes. It was about his control, his fragile pride, and his deep-seated insecurity. The woman who once courageously nursed him back to life was now stepping fully into her own unconstrained, powerful light. And maybe, just maybe, that fundamental dynamic shift was the one thing Keith simply couldn't handle. By early summer 2025, Keith and Nicole were done pretending the fairy tale was real. He was touring across America. She was filming Practical Magic 2 in London. And the geographical distance perfectly mirrored the emotional canyon between them. Insiders claim that when Keith officially moved out of their Nashville estate, Nicole was completely blindsided. She genuinely believed it was temporary. She thought they were merely taking space. But Keith had already emotionally checked out. He suddenly had a new address, a new energy, and allegedly a new person in his life. And while no one knows for sure when or if things turned romantic with Maggie, everyone agrees on one brutal fact. Nicole was the last to know the ugly truth. When TMZ finally dropped the story about Keith's new woman, social media erupted into a firestorm. The reactions were venomous and absolutely brutal. People screamed, "Betrayal!" Fans were writing things like, "She stood by him when he was broken, and this is the trash way he repays her." A few tried to feebly defend Keith, suggesting they'd been drifting for years, and it was simply time. But the vast majority lined up firmly on Team Nicole. Even other celebrities subtly took sides. Reese Witherspoon visibly liked a post supporting Nicole, and Hugh Jackman reportedly unfollowed Keith. The narrative was crystal clear. Hollywood's reigning sweetheart had been publicly humiliated, and fans were not about to let the perpetrator off the hook. Nicole has been leaning on her two daughters, Sunday and Faith, more than ever before. Sources say the three of them are inseparable right now, traveling together, spending quiet nights at home, desperately trying to rebuild a sense of normalcy. Her sister Antonia has also been her constant, unwavering rock. And while Nicole hasn't actually said the word divorce outright, her close friends have reportedly described her as heartbroken but holding on to her dignity. They say she still loves Keith, but she has accepted the devastating finality of their end. It's the agonizing, quiet heartbreak, the kind that skips the screaming matches and scandals. It's just two people who loved each other deeply until one person tragically quit trying. Now, naturally, people close to Keith are telling a completely different, self-serving version of events. They claim he felt totally annoyed and stuck, that he was desperate to feel alive again. They argue his marriage had devolved into nothing more than a miserable business partnership rather than a romance. He needed space. He was desperate to focus on his music, and according to one conveniently placed insider, he and Nicole had actually been emotionally separated for months before any nasty Maggie rumors even began swirling. But even if that's the literal truth, who cares? The optics are truly terrible when you've been married for almost 20 years, and you're suddenly beaming on stage with a 25-year-old woman just weeks after moving out of your marital home. It's not just not a great look, it's a career-destroying PR disaster. Here's why this tragic story has the entire world paralyzed. Keith and Nicole were absolutely not supposed to fail. They were the anomaly, the one couple who made it, the gold standard. They were living, breathing proof that love could survive fame, addiction, distance, all of it. So, when they spectacularly fell apart, it hit people on a painfully personal level. Like, if they couldn't make it, what hope do the rest of us have? And that, my friends, is what makes this breakup different. It's not just regular celebrity gossip. It's a gut punch to everyone who still believes in true Hollywood love. As of this very moment, there are still no finalized divorce papers on file. Technically, they remain married, just officially separated. But those closest to them confirm Keith has entirely emotionally checked out while Nicole is still bravely processing everything. She's pouring her incredible heart into her work, filming new projects, spending quality time with family, and focusing desperately on healing. Keith is back on tour, playing the victim, and remains completely mute about Maggie. They are both moving forward, but their paths are now irreversibly diverging. In the end, maybe this isn't just a sad story about heartbreak. Maybe it's about a glorious rebirth. Nicole Kidman poured every ounce of herself into that marriage. Her love, her endless patience, her unparalleled strength. And when it finally collapsed, she didn't lash out. She just stood taller and more regal than ever. Keith Urban might delusionally think he's found glittering new freedom, perhaps even a musical spark with Maggie Baugh, but the undeniable shadow of what he sacrificed will forever follow him. Because no matter how talented Maggie is, or how bright his future looks, there is only one Nicole Kidman, and a love like that is never, ever found twice. Anyway, this concludes today's bombshell video. Be sure to smash that subscribe button for Celeb X future celebrity videos, and absolutely turn on that post notification bell so you don't miss out on any future uploads. Until then, see you in the next one.